Game 2s in the NBA playoffs mark the beginning of the chess match of a 7-game series. So much is on the line, and the intensity on the floor reflects the stakes. Some very necessary adjustments were made tonight, and some were just flat out missed. Welcome to BucketTeam, and today we're going to get things started in Twin City, the land of the Wolves.
Edwards wants to take him, elevates, and buries it.
Believe it or not, there is a full moon in Minneapolis tonight, so it is no wonder why the Wolves came out in full force. This series is so interesting for the simple fact that outside of the crazy amount of stars on the floor, it's the league's best defense against an absolute juggernaut of an offense. Phoenix can be one of the, if not the most elite offense in the world when they're hitting. But 3 days ago, they weren't getting in the paint and forcing guys to collapse to create better looks. Instead, it was pull up here, pull up there, with a hand in the face. And outside of KD, that wasn't working. Minnesota's defense was alive and well, and Gobert was a monster on nearly every single possession, even if it didn't result in a steal or a block. Ant-Man had an ant-sized point total tonight, but he affected the game in other ways. Jaden McDaniels went off for 25 and 8 in the biggest game of his career, and nobody outperformed him in this one. Mike Conley, McDaniels, and Gobert stepped up big time in a game where their two best offensive weapons weren't hitting. Phoenix continued to have the same problems, and they had another big one: turnovers, self-inflicted wounds. Also a terrible coach's challenge. Grayson Allen re-injuring that same ankle is a tough sight for Phoenix. Grayson going down has major implications going forward. Minnesota threw haymakers all game, and an 11-0 run in the fourth just about sealed this one up. Phoenix would lose their cool in parts of the fourth. It wasn't just the players, it was Frank Vogel too. If they want to have a chance in this series, they have to change their mentality, not just their game plan. Over in the East, the Pacers made some key adjustments to get the first road win in these playoffs, and the Siakam show was once again ready for prime time.
Cross court, inside, Pascal, turnaround, again! 33 points for Pascal Siakam.
Game 1 of this series saw Dame Time assert his will and put up one of the best first half performances in playoff history. Indy had good looks in that game, but couldn't make the shots they needed to. And when it rains, it pours. Pascal Siakam cooked for 36 and 13, but Tyrese Halliburton looked like a shell of himself. He is completely capable of scoring the ball at a higher level, and he needed to be more aggressive. While the Halliburton, Siakam, and Lillard pieces of the equation stayed the same for Game 2, the Pacers decided to go nuclear on the offensive end. Pascal Siakam's tried and tested postseason experience has allowed him to elevate his game to another level in late April. Personally, I'm not sure how Pacer fans feel about the hierarchy of who really is the number one on this team, but Spicy P has stepped up front and center into that position in this series. He's been dynamite from the post during these first two contests, but as Doc Rivers alluded to in his post-game conference, he was a distributor too, and he was creating shots for others. When your top scorer is locked in like this, and the others are doing their part, you always feel like you have a chance. We won't see many other games in these playoffs where a team reaches 125. At this time of the year, that's almost an impossible feat, but not for Indy. The fact that their name is the Pacers is beyond fitting, because they know how to push the ball up and play faster than almost anyone in the league. This time of the year, you rarely see teams being able to play at a million miles an hour, and Indy wasn't able to just run around whenever they wanted to. But when the opportunities presented themselves, they use it to their advantage. You've got to admire the performances from Dame without Giannis. But this Bucks team has a shorter lifespan without Giannis than the Pacers do fully healthy. However, if they can get the Greek Freak back on the floor within the next 2 games, they can absolutely win this series. In the late night matchup, a rivalry rages on. But while it might be the home of the Clippers, Ballmer must have forgotten that Luka is still the majority owner.
Doncic, 5 to shoot. Against Harden. Doncic lines it up. It goes! He is that guy!
2 days ago, the Clippers came out swinging in the first half of Game 1, completely catching the Mavs off guard with their defensive intensity and shot making. Dallas was settling for bad shots in the first half, and if you told me that there were 0 assists by the Mavericks in that half, I would have believed you. James Harden was throwing rocks in the ocean, and Ivica Zubac looked like prime Shaq. That game was over by halftime. But tonight the Mavs came out with some elevated energy from the tip, and they never looked back. Kawhi Leonard would make his highly anticipated return to play, but it was evident that the time in between and the physical toll on his body had taken away from his usual superpowers. Harden and PG had solid outings, each with 22 apiece, but it was a far cry from their Game 1 performances. Luka and Kyrie continue to be a top duo in the highest moments, but tonight, everybody on the Mavericks showed up. Lively provided excellent rim protection and individual defense on Zubac. PJ Washington and Maxi Kleber hit some massive threes in the clutch, while Josh Green was the spark plug off the bench, grabbing some huge rebounds down the stretch and pushing the pace. Things would get tight in the fourth, but Luka and Kyrie were not about to let this Mavericks team lose tonight. This Mavericks team boasts a top 5 offense in the league, but it's apparent whenever they settle for bad shots early in the clock, they give all the momentum away. When the Mavs touch the paint, they're almost unstoppable as an offense, since teams have to make a decision on the fly, and Luka and Kyrie have a counter for everything. Jason Kidd has had his blunders during the regular season, but since mid-March, his defensive adjustments have been spectacular, and he also had a great coach's challenge at the end of this game, securing a victory for the Mavericks. Luka and Kyrie get a bad rap for their defense, but if you've really watched a Mavs game, you know that both of those players are highly improved defenders. From an LAC fan's perspective, if Kawhi becomes the Kawhi of old, then the Clippers have no reason to not feel great about their chances going forward. On the other side, Dallas's dynamic duo hasn't been as efficient as they'd like to be either. Both of these teams do not like each other. Legacies are on the line, and whoever wins this series is going to have to go to hell and back to do it.